Okay, so uh, this was the task allocated. It says what the importance of UDF that you can go back to refer in your textbook or maybe in your class notes. Then says write a prototype for a user defined function that accepts two arguments. The first one as the string called haystack, and the second has to be a character called key. The user defined function should return 0 if it is not present, or say the search character is not present over there, or the count of number of times the character is present. Finally, you need to write a proper definition of the user defined function to implement it. Okay, so it says the user defined function should return 0 if it is not present, or the count of number of times the character is present. Finally, you need to write a proper definition of the user defined function in order to implement it. Whenever you have a keyword called implement, you should understand that it is to write the code is function definition. Okay, it's called function definition. Now, consider that the case sensitive search is being performed. Okay, consider that the case sensitive search is being performed. In that case, how do we approach? Okay, so let's look at things first thing first. So here you have the solution. Okay, so first thing within the main body, okay, let's have an algorithm. So step number one, we start. Step number two, read the string from the user. From the user. As we used to do earlier, I prefer using character by character method of reading the string values. Okay, I prefer the character by character way of reading the string because you know that gives us a lot of power. Having said that, then we have something called step number step number 3. Now you read the character that has to be searched. Fine. So finally you have two things. You have the whole string as in character type array, and you have the character that has to be searched. So finally you call the user defined function. Remember, if you have been into my class, then you should remember that whenever we pass a user defined function, whenever you pass an array to a user defined function, it's by default passed by reference, and it's always a good idea to pass the size of that particular array as well. So we'll use that strategy again after a while. So if you see here, it says call the UDF by passing these values. So everything that has been discussed in the class, you should understand that. So passing array and passing the size always as a second argument. Please ignore any backgrounds if any. Finally, what do you do during the UDF? So within the UDF, you need to perform a search. So let me say step number 5. My assumptions are that you have been receiving the value as a pointer. So you could say loop until until if you remember we had backslash 0 as the ending character. So I say character ends in the list. Now, what do we do? After reading the character, what do? We compare it with the value. So 5.1 says compare each character compare each character with the search character. And once that matches, you need to increase the count. So if the match is found, if the match is found, increase the counter. Increase the counter. And finally, so this continues until you have end of the character. And once the loop ends, step number 6 does I know, step number 6 you return the count. Okay, what's next? So since you have returned this count from the UDF to the main body, you need to print out and you need to actually verify whether that value of the count is greater than 0 or not. If it is, that means the character that has been searched has been found. So you could say this many times. And if the count value is equals to 0, you could say that the character being searched is not in the list or in the sentence. Saying that, so we say step number 7. Finally, finally, you decide and display an appropriate message. An appropriate message on the string, on the screen. That's our target. Please ignore any background, kids are around. So this is what we are going to perform thoroughly. Saying that, let's see. So I have a file called day1 Hopefully you can see over here. So we have defined the size of the string, and as discussed, this is how the UDF looks like. So whenever you pass a string, it's always a good idea that you receive it using a character type pointer. So whenever it's a string or say any type of, any type of array, we take second argument. It's not compulsory though. Anyhow, you should receive the second argument as the size. Just it acts like your guide. Then after the third character is the search character. The character that has to be searched within the string. Okay, then the main implementation over here says you read the original string of this length maybe, but this length is just a sufficient size. We are yet to learn about dynamic memory allocation, where we generate or we ask the user the length of the string initially, and then we can define. We'll talk about dynamic memory allocation in the next sessions. Right now, so we're just following the algorithm that we developed. In fact, it's just that I have already written the code and I had some strategy. So I written the algorithm again. So if you see from right here, line number 13 to line number 21 is a usual thing that we used to do in the class for reading a string character by character. So finally, you have the search character right over here. Enter the character that has to be searched and the user enters it. The F plus is just for the buffer to be cleared. The input buffer has to be cleared before doing so. It's just a practical scenario. Many times I have told you that even if you miss in the exam hall, this won't be a problem. But once you are into some projects, once you are into technical, if you have to be very sound, then practical things have to be covered. Well, saying that, you need to call the user defined function. It says search character. And if you look at the prototype, as we discussed earlier, passing a string are in three different ways. The first one is you pass the address right here and you say the first character, so square bracket and you say 0. Even this is fine. Or I have been telling you that just you pass the name of the array and it's done. So a string is no different. It is just an array. The special thing is it's of character type array. So every element that it has is behaved as a single character. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue. So the I here, if you see, is the size. And if you are if you are allowed to use to read the string using string handling function like say gets, and if you are allowed to capture the length of the string using strlen, then you could have used those things right here. So this much is a complete replacement for gets gets. Just in case if you're allowed to read the string using string handling function. We are storing these things in a hard way because later on it will be easy for us. The hard way always pays. Saying that, so this is the length of the string actually. If you see here, the value of I holds the pointer or the cursor right at the top of the stack, so that I can understand or somebody that has the hint that how many characters are there within the character list. Furthermore, the value of ch over here is the search character now. Just because we have used it as a search character, if you would have described it to be search search, then you could have passed it again. But whatever be the case, I'm using the same variable multiple number of times. Within the loop, it was acting as a character that has to be stored in the array list. as an array element, but afterwards it's just acting as a simple character that has to be searched within the string. Do not get confused. This is a completely new value. Okay, so this is actually a search value. This is what is doing going to be is what going to be searched. And I passed it as an address as well. So simply if you do not pass it this way, this is called pass by value, and the user defined function was expecting it to be a base address, so you have to pass the base address. Oops, this is right here. As the algorithm says, so once you have the value of the count, you need to verify the value of count. If it's greater than 0, that means the character has appeared few number of times. So this is the appropriate message right here. The percentage C, or the character of course, appeared this many times. Whereas if you do not have the value, if you do not have the value, you say this character over here is not in the string data. Okay, so far so good. This is the how the main ends over right over here, and this is the user defined function definition part. Okay, so this is actually the function body. This is also known as function body. You call it body, or you call say body of the function. Body of the function. So this what you see here is known as the formal argument. Okay, whereas while you are calling it, this is the actual argument. So while calling, you pass the actual argument, and here this is the formal argument. Then we have the size. As I told you, it keeps us guided. Once you are actually dealing with a array, then you need a guide as well. How many times the loop has to execute, or how many times the value has to be iterated. Finally, you have the character, and in a perfect order. If you look at its prototype, it has the same thing right here. Let me show you. Let me copy paste and show you. It's right here. Exactly the same thing. No changes. I highly recommend having say copied these things and then work. I've seen you, most of the students, not just you people. I've seen most of the students. What they do, they take their time in keying these things, and they make general mistake. For example, you have the C small right here, and you have the underscore instead, or multiple different typos. But I don't mind copy pasting them. I don't mind people calling me lazy in this case. But things goes like this. If you study the algorithm again, it says we have the loop, and if so right now the pointer key pointer over here is the value that is being searched, and if it is within the stack, then only please increase the count. Done. Let's see if things work. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, so let's say I have this string right here. I'm an Orcadian and I have a good place to learn. Now, for the time being, I would like to search how many times the A has appeared. So hopefully I'll take a say 3 seconds or 2 seconds of pause. You can find out how many times the A has produced, and keep that thing into mind. Don't tell me. Later you'll see the result is right over there. So if I see here, it says 1. Orchidian has 1A again. That makes it 2. Have has 1A, makes it 3. Or over there is makes it 4. Place has 1A, makes it 5. And learn has another A, makes it 6. So let's see. I have to search, and that is A, of course. The A character appeared 6 times. Perfect, as expected. But in the same thing, in exactly the same thing, now it's a case sensitive search. The reason is we have just verified it, or we have just compared character by character. We did not make any changes to it. Okay. So for this instance, it's a character type, or say case sensitive search. Now, just in case, if you have case insensitive search, means say I have a capital I and a small I has to be behaved the same way, and once anybody searches for I, it should look for the string for capital I and small I at the same time and increase the counter. Now, at this point of time, that is your question number two, I guess. So, at this point of time, right here, it says question number two, modify your UDF in question number one such that it performs as a case insensitive search. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's not make this video a bit lengthy. So, for question number one, that would be all. And I hope if you have anything, you can always post it in the classroom. So I'll stop it right here and then we'll continue with question number two.